Hey, welcome to the Pound Network. Today we'll be covering the skills of a high wizard. Let's begin by looking at character, job. We have a fire lance, a fire element magic attack. Meteor storm, summon meteors and attack enemies, makes the enemies burnt. We have ice spear, a water element ice attack involving multiple ice spears. Blizzard, attack and freeze enemies, fixed accuracy rate, maximum of 6 hits. We have Thunderbolt, a wind element magic attack that may paralyze foes. We have Thor's hammer, attack with a huge Thor's hammer, chance of blinding an enemy, shortest cast time, great magic. An earth element attack that has a small chance of knocking out foes. Earthquake, attack of causing an earthquake making enemies paralyzed or KO, recoil some damage. Mini heal, restore a bit of HP to an ally. Dark blast, a dark element magic attack. Drain, a dark element magic attack with a chance of absorbing the damage you deal to foes. Reflection, a dark element magic attack with a chance to deflect damage back to your foe. Mana Mastery, a book of magic tactics that raises magic attack. Mana Recover, raises the rate at which you automatically recover MP. Rod Mastery, a book of staff tactics that raises magic attack and magic defense when wielding the staff. Cast Barrier, reduce the damage taken while casting a spell. Spell Burst, a chance of temporary magic attack up, the rate is based on crit. Monostock, charge magic at most 3 times, only great magic power increases. Mirage, defense magic to ease fatal damage, reduce the great damage taken, current and max MP affected. Head Crush, a self-defense skill with staffs, attack ignoring the target's defense, attacks increase the damage. Imperial Ray, condense and burst the magic. The effect varies by frequent use and using after great magics. Grigori, inflict various disasters on foes, chance of inflicting status ailments at a fixed interval. Mono Wave, cast the magic of unaligned element at enemies. Mana Recharge, uses your life force to refill the target's MP. So let's start from the beginning. With Fire Lance, it's a attack for a single target. It's the fire element. Ice Spear is the water element of a single target attack. Thunderbolt is the lightning element of a single attack, and Earth Pike is the earth element of a single attack. Now these 4, when you are at a low level, is very useful, but when you're at a high level, you tend to use the AoE great magic spells more. The only thing that becomes useful within those spells is Thunderbolt, in which Thunderbolt paralyzes foes when used at random. It will paralyze. So with that, paralyzing an enemy will slow their attack, in which you have more chance to attack them and drain. So Thunderbolt is very, very crucial for a high wizard, even at endgame. But we talked about great magic, and those spells are Blizzard, which has a chance to hit a maximum of 3 to 6 times per enemy, and up to 3 enemies. So Blizzard is very, very useful, considering that it can hit 6 times for 1 enemy, up to 3 enemies. Regarding Meteor Storm, it is also AoE. However, for Meteor Storm, if the enemy is close to an enemy you did not target, it will target that as an AoE form. In Blizzard, it's slightly different because when you Blizzard, you can only cast it and it will only affect the enemies that are currently attacking you and not random enemies beyond the ones that you have targeted. For Meteor Storm, it will attract more enemies, up to 3, into your area of attack, and they will be hostile against you. With Earthquake, it's almost like Meteor, but with Earthquake, it's a bit different because of this Great Magic's skill set. You're able to hit and aggro more enemies, but you might get damaged in the process due to the recoil. So if you have very low HP, Earthquake may hurt you a lot, versus if you have someone with high HP that can Earthquake and take the recoil damage. Now all 3 of these spells, Meteor Storm, Blizzard, and Earthquake, are AoE spells. They're able to hit more than one target. In regards to Earthpike does offer a stun. However, when using it often, the stun is not as does not come out as often as Thunderbolt's Paralyze. So Earthpike versus Thunderbolt, Thunderbolt has more of a chance of a effect on your enemy versus Earthpike. Now, Imperial Ray is a bit different. But before we get to Imperial Ray, let's talk about Thor's Hammer. Thor's Hammer is a great magic spell, however, it's slightly different from the rest because it's a single target great magic. It has the shortest cast time of all the great magics. So, for instance, if you're a high wizard that has tons of skill delay, Thor's Hammer would effectively spam because of the cast time that's low, and you already fixed the skill delay issues, so spamming Thor's Hammer on bosses is a good idea, given that you want to spam. So that was the 4 great magic spells: Thor, Blizzard, Meteor Storm, and Earthquake. But as you get higher level, a spell that is known as Imperial Ray will be available, and Imperial Ray offers a chain effect. What I mean by chain effect is once you use great magic and you use Imperial Ray, depending on the boss that you're fighting and its element weakness, Imperial Ray can do a couple 100,000 damage versus the great magic spell such as Thor's Hammer, which may do about 40k damage, but with Imperial Ray casted after, you may do additional 300k damage. So we're talking about roughly 40 or 30k damage from a Thor's Hammer, and then adding Imperial Ray, it will be about another 300 or so a total of 340 damage with 2 spells. So Imperial Ray is definitely one of the best spells to have. However, its downside is that it must be chained to an effect, and that the boss or the enemy that you fight is weak against the great magic element that you cast. So there are some bosses that you will have to fight that switch elements. Sometimes they're wind, and then during the middle of the fight they may switch to light or earth or whatever the case may be. So when using Imperial Ray, you must understand the enemy that you're fighting, and once you do understand that, you can use the different great magic elements combining with Imperial Ray to do maximum damage. Now there are also a lot of passive skills. Some are very easy to understand, some are a little bit more difficult. So let's just start with Mini Heal. Mini Heal restores HP to your allies. Dark Blast gives an attack, but it's very weak, so it's only used for the low level high wizards. For Drain is used at almost all levels of a high wizard because Drain offers HP back to you as you cast it in intervals. Reflection, it's a buff that gives you the ability to reflect damage. However, as a high wizard at 287, I rarely use reflection. Not because every little bit doesn't help, but it's just because it's not very useful in general. The reflected rate is not very high. Regarding Mana Mastery, that's just a passive mastery. It will always help you out. It boosts magic attack. Mana Recover raises the rate at which you automatically recover MP, so that's very helpful as well. Rod Mastery seems to be for when you're using a rod, it will boost magic attack and magic defense up. So it encourages the user to use rods as a basic weapon. Cast Barrier is also good because it reduces the damage taken while casting a spell. It's a passive, so what will happen is as you cast a spell, there will be lesser damage taken by you. However, if you're not casting a spell and you get hit harder. With Spell Burst, it's the second part of doing very, very high damage. So before, as I was talking about using Great Magic and chaining with Imperial Ray, what happens is that your Great Magic can Spell Burst and then your Imperial Ray can Spell Burst. So if you were using Great Magic and a Spell Burst it and you do about 30k damage, your Spell Burst will be about 50k on top of, not on top, but it will be about 50k total damage for that Great Magic spell. Then you chain on Imperial Ray and the Spell Burst rate gets increased. So if your regular Imperial Ray with whatever element does about 300k damage, when you actually Spell Burst then you do 400k damage or 450k damage. So Spell Burst is a very good skill, very useful, in which the more you Spell Burst, the higher the damage is, how often it would be. Regarding Mana Stock, if we were to use a Great Magic spell and you Mana Stock, you would actually be stocking about 3 times, and what will happen is that Great Magic spell or skill that you're using would have increased damage. So if you Mana Stock and then you use Great Magic and Spell Burst it, your 30k damage with the Mana Stock would be about 50k damage, and then on top of that, if you use 50k damage and the Spell Burst it, you would be about 70k damage. When you're dealing with Mirage, you have to be dealing with defense magic to ease fatal damage. So when you're dealing with Mirage, what happens is that damage taken is less. Every time they cast a spell on you, the damage is much lessened. It also increases cast time. It also decreases cast time, sorry about that. So when you are casting a spell, cast time will be lower, so you can cast a spell much faster with Mirage. You can see that on CSPD when you look at the stats. Head Crush is a side skill. Head Crush is a side skill, and what happens with Head Crush is that you use it for a boss or an enemy. It's not very strong, but the animations do look good. The good thing about it is it pierces the enemy's defense, so you don't have to worry about that part. Grigori was a level 260 skill that was obtained when you reach those levels, and it will inflict various ailments on your enemies. It does curse them every so often. If you're fighting a boss or whatever and you have Grigori on, it does curse them and you will see the effect. However, what the effects are is still fairly questionable, and the use of Grigori is still very questionable because it has a very long skill delay. Now when using Mana Wave, it's a very low level spell. It does use magic, and it is an underlined magic element, so that is the only element that we have that is underlined skill that we can use. Mana Recharge is great throughout all the levels. With Mono Recharge, you're able to recover MP, and the more vitality you have when you use Mono Recharge, the more MP will be gained. So if you have 50,000, if you have about 20,000 HP, your MP heal would be greater than someone if they only had 10,000 HP. I hope this clarifies most of the effects of these skills and how they work. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. And if you like the video, please subscribe. Thank you.